Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar, The Future of IT Operations, More Prediction, Less Disruption. We've got 30 minutes today, and we want to cover the latest research and all the key things that you need to know to move forward with proactive IT. Excellent. So I'm Heather Moses, the CMO at Nexthink, and with me today I have Vincent Bieri. He's the co-founder and a board member of Nexthink. And as chief evangelist at Nexthink, Vincent is responsible for leading product marketing. He's deeply involved with customers to distill their experience and infuse it into current product plans. He's also working closely with them to shape next generation digital experience monitoring technology. So why are we here talking today? Nexthink was actually recently recognized by Forrester and other leading industry analysts, and in particular for being a complete solution for cognitive operations. And it's really something that's a leading indicator for many companies as they're moving forward to try to begin to move towards proactive IT. We've been a pioneer in this, and we have more, I think, close to 900 customers now and many years of experience. We are also adding something unique from the end user perspective, and that's the thing that we want to talk with you about today. From the agenda perspective, what we'd like to do is talk about the latest research as indicated, what some of the forward-thinking IT teams are looking to do as they shift from being reactive to proactive, and then we'll walk through how companies are helping to improve employee productivity, lower costs, and ensure innovation and migration projects are staying on track, and also that they're not disrupting and causing downtime when they're doing their migration and transformation projects. On the next slide, just a quick note about housekeeping before we get started. We're recording the webinar. The slides will be available after, and if you have questions throughout the session, please pop them into the window and we will save time at the end for them. And at this point, I will turn over to Vincent to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Heather, for this very effective introduction. Hello, everyone. My pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you about the future of IT operation, which is, in our sense, something that goes into the direction of more prediction and drives less disruption. But that sounds really great. But to achieve this, I think it's good to go before we outline solutions and how Forrester in its report is basically also outlining the necessary technology and benefits that would be getting doing this. Let's go over the challenges that people may face while willing to be more predictive, proactive, and preemptive. So the first one is basically there is no way you can become proactive and predictive if you're not changing the way you monitor IT services. And this has been recognized in many industry analyst reports and research and expert opinion, mainly because of a couple of things that are outlined in this slide. The first one is the complexity of the technology in our enterprises. Digital systems has really grown very quickly and very diversely, if you like. Users are having more devices than ever before, manipulating more applications, changing, requesting changes or driving change by themselves much faster and more frequently. So that this diversity of situations creates something that, in a way, you can basically get visibility to monitor it and understand what's going on. With, let's say, old style system not really making any success. So that's the first thing. If digital technology wouldn't be that we wouldn't be that dependent on it, wouldn't be a big deal. But the problem is, as much as the complexity grow, at the same time we grow also our dependency to technology for driving business forward. So there is a double effect which makes that problem kind of exponential. So we have to change the way we monitor services, the way we understand how digital systems and digital employees in enterprises are experiencing the technology by driving innovations. And there is a kind of category of innovation that are emerging in the past couple of years, which is around the digital experience monitoring. So the idea is really to say we have to move not away, but we have to complement the technology monitoring, which we are used to with monitoring networks and servers and applications and database from a technological standpoint, like what's the CPU load, what's the response time in milliseconds over a network packet, jitter, whatever, to really understanding metrics that matters to the business experience and to the business productivity. So this is becoming really essential to obtain, and the only way to make it easier to obtain is to actually adopt this digital experience monitoring, which is a way to basically explain this idea of changing the way we monitor services. We have to move up the stack from network and session and application layers to basically layer 8, which is basically the end users and the people behind all this technology stack and applications. And that's the only way basically to become predictive, which is, I think, the ultimate dream is basically to have problem fixed transparently from the user experience so that they never experience the problem. And IT is basically running a completely transparent technology stack behind the scene that never cause any trouble to anyone. That's where we want to go, or we want to help you go, and that's where the industry is building up innovations and that can cope with complexity. Of course, we are not there yet. As a result, if you look at those recent reports telling you that it's only 2 users at the end of the chain of your IT services out of 10 are really thinking they get things on time, issues are basically fixed quickly enough, they get updates to improve their productivity fast enough and frequently enough so that they have the right productivity tool, the right tool they want and need at the right frequency. Only basically 20% are saying out there that they are there. So which means there is a huge amount of remaining end users that are not fully satisfied or getting what they need. Imagine you reverse that to a consumer world, that would just make you running out of business. So if you only have 20% of your consumer running through a digital service on your e-commerce website or services, imagine Uber or Amazon just saying only 20% of our customers are getting what they need out of our portals. That would just mean they cannot get a business done. And for an enterprise, getting close to 100% of users satisfied with IT will become a must-have, because every employee actually can be only productive if they get a digital performance, adequate performance or ultimate performance for doing their work. So the consequence to materialize that is today over 2 weeks per year is lost per employee with its 20 minutes per day, and due to IT related issues, incidents, downtime, slow performance, not adequate tools, UI, and so on. So you get completely interrupted by things that do not work as you wish, do not work at all, colleagues that interrupt you to help them to fix it because they were not able to do it with the service portal, or they were not getting the help from the support center fast enough. So there is a huge productivity to gain there. And more than productivity, there are a lot of drivers around experience and satisfaction that influence directly business KPIs. So it's not just about technology, and that's how people need to start monitoring services above the technology layers to really translate the KPIs that you measure on the IT team to business value, whether it's cost, how you can save cost and control it. It's brand reputation today. It's not just about having your website up and running and making sure it's there with its front end, back end, with APM and so on that's going to monitor it. But there's also all the workers behind it that needs to have a great satisfaction about IT, so that the full brand reputation will not be at risk. Productivity is an obvious thing. If I can save from this 22 minutes, let's say half of it, I will gain 1 week per year per employee. If you have 10,000 employees, that's many years saved without a lot of changes in the way you work, but just in the fact that people can work a little bit more every day. And not to say security, people have more data that are digitalized that can be compromised on their systems, laptop, desktop, mobile devices, etc., moving around with all this. If you're not controlling this really well, security is at risk, and we've seen, and we are continuously seeing breaches that put that at great consequences. And we have to look at how to monitor better so that not only performance is higher, but also compliance and security are well and better covered. So let's see how, out of this very interesting report around cognitive IT operations, but which basically means the use of different technology, I will basically outline here, but for more details, the best is to read the document, but there are some solutions around, and let's go into that. So the first thing is, what do you get if you can basically turn your IT operation much more proactive? So there is, of course, a reduction of effort. So for an IT staff that is more proactive, there are less efforts to do everything, basically, because there are information coming earlier. There are things getting fixed before any tickets are being opened, etc. When things are still happening, because no one can basically say everything will be transparent 100%, although it would be an interesting goal to reach, but there will be remaining issues to react on and fix. There will still be fires, but of course, if you're not firefighting all over the place, the few fires that you get, they are easier to identify and go extinguish quickly. And if you can do that faster, you are also improving dramatically the performance of the overall organization. Preventing problems is the third one of that kind of approach in your operation. So you really can prevent them before they affect the customer being outside, but can also be an internal digital employee. And finally, those cognitive operation system and approach give also meaning to the metrics you're measuring into the business impact. So what do we mean by that is really to say, how can I turn a metric that we are used to read with whether it's saying it's 99.999% availability, or it's 200 milliseconds, which is fast in terms of response time, to something that gives a meaning to how the business can function, or how the business can basically improve in terms of bottom line, top line, customer satisfaction, customer retention, or even employee and talent traction that you can get for your organization, and the way you have to move the business forward. So you have to move to metrics that give meaning much more than at the technical level. And those technology allows to do that. And those technology have to be combined, basically delivering 6 major things. So it's not about just one, because of course there is a lot of traction into like machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is one component, which you can basically look into, like the number 5 here, which is predictive model that can learn the particularities of an infrastructure and the things that are outliers and anomalies and so on, which this sounds really great, but you cannot cover everything just with this. So it's also important to go back to the basics and are able to measure, specific thresholds, like number 1. Number 2 is about rules, because rules still matters a lot, because if we can gain expertise out of many years, like we do at Nexthink, around monitoring end user computing environment, that expertise can be very valuable, being part of a solution that try to translate different metrics into great meanings. And it's not only about self-learning, or it's also about expert intelligence as well, but it's also about community sharing and knowledge. So how do you share and spread what's been learned at one particular place that could be useful everywhere else? Very recently we had a case where the particular settings out of Windows 10 migration, would re-enable Windows auto update, that would basically go against the corporate policy. People didn't know, they knew about it, but they turned it off, but they were turned on by reinstalling whatever KB. And here we could detect it and automatically put it back to the right configuration. And by identifying this case and this situation in one place, how do you automatically can spread that particular intelligence to every customer? And that capability is as important as, you know, self-learning intelligence into one particular environment. So there are also the number 4, which I think is key, is how do you address complex relationship? You know, the way an environment functions is not just like I have one device with, you know, one OS with a few processes connecting in one very predictable way to a server to run a particular business process. It can be highly complex, changing. For the same purpose, you can have 20 different ways to do it. They're all valid, and you want to learn about all of them, maybe compare them, and then choose the best proposed models to enforce across an organization. So a lot of things to do and a lot of things to watch for. So if you choose a solution, the idea is really to look into this different direction, because they have to be basically combining them all to be really effective. And technology is one thing, but organization, processes, and the way you orchestrate workflows are as important. So here is a 5-step guide that is part of the Forrester report, which I think is worth sharing. So, and I will share in the last part a real case customer example with our product and solution and services, where number 1 is very important. You will see that it's very important to select which problem we're trying to solve in a predictive manner, because not all can basically work really well in a predictive manner. Some are more complex, some are easier, some are faster, some will take more time to mature and be implemented. So choosing the right one first to have quick wins is really key. The limitation of predictive analytics are also key, because not everything can be prevented. So announcing you will move your operation to a more predictive or model or maturity and so on is one thing. Making the expectation that everything will be predictive would be probably the wrong message. And it's very important to also say there will still be fires to extinguish afterwards, but we also have to understand that if we are predictive with some very often recurring things, we will have more time to basically deal with reactive things. Therefore, if I have more time available, I can potentially be faster with more resources. Of course, predictive models, and that's, I think, the way to reduce these noisy situations and false positive and so on, is really to combine the different things technological approach together. If you only have a kind of machine learning, very modeling and so on, that's the unique approach to learn about things that may happen tomorrow and be a problem that you should fix today, will be for sure raising a lot of noise and unnecessary actions, and be basically not a good model. So know that it's not the holy grail, and there are many things that must work together to be really effective. Number 4, which as a vendor, you might say, well, why are you saying this? Well, I'm saying this because I'm transparent with what's in the report. So where they say make prediction a priority without a vendor solution doesn't mean you can be predictive without any solution. It means in the first place you have to have this willingness to operate in a different way than you do today, be more predictive than reactive, do things before you get the user complaining about it, so that you deliver behind the scene the better service, fix things before you get the alarm. That's from an organizational standpoint, cultural standpoint. It's very important that your employee have to be considered very important, and their satisfaction and efficiency with IT tools has to be in the first place you know, in the priority. So a solution alone won't do it. That's basically the idea, right? There are processes to re-engineer and orchestrate around that, and then you can move to the right solution. And expectation reasonable means, you know, there are things that will be able to be very effective, things a bit less. But if you take those 22 minutes, I don't think it's reasonable to say that we will go down to zero, everything will be fixed now and nobody has any problem anymore. But if you say we can reduce by 20, 30, 50%, hence improve 5, 6, 7, 10% productivity, that's already huge impact by being reasonable as well. So I think we have to be conservative, but even by being conservative, we can drive massive changes. So let's look a little bit at our answer to that. So the first thing, as Heather said in the intro, the unique things we bring and the complete differentiator is to look at prediction, not from the server and the network side, but really to look at it from the user side. Not by monitoring traditionally just the technical piece of the component, like we do also have metrics around the desktop performance and so on, but what we care the most about is the user experience, how they experience the systems, the application, the networks, and how they perceive it. So there is a duality between technical metric and perspective soft metric, which is what the user think in his brain, right? So he's going to give input and we're going to collect data about what's the real user perception around that within context in a very, very effective way, so that we can combine a perception with a reality in terms of technical metric. And we do it right from the user, because that's where everything matters in the first place. That's where you get the most, let's say, relevant visibility around the business impact as well. Because a router being down doesn't mean necessarily somebody not able to do his work. Maybe it's rerouted through another pass and I can still use SAP. But if I'm at the user side, I can really know that SAP is not really working really fast for me at this moment. No matter if it's a problem in the network, the server, the database, the service provider, or my device. But I can see that in all cases for every user, every time. And that's what we do very differently. And that allows us to give a unique platform to innovate, operate, and secure the full digital workplace in an enterprise. From helping accelerating transformation, be proactive and IT support, that's the focus of today, but also, you know, ensuring compliance and security across every device and every user behavior. So with this platform, you can really not only get informed about, you know, what you should do proactively, but the idea is really to get the proactively completely automated, so that you're not waiting for someone to take an action and so on. And this has to go in 6 different steps. The first one is collect the right data. As I said before, you need the real user data. That's why we start at the user front. The user is at the center of every service. We start collecting the data we need to analyze there. And it's about technical metric, but also people's opinions, sentiment, and so on. It's both. It's not just a technical matter. Then analyzing the data with basically the 6 technology modeling that were outlined in the Forrester report, with baselining, with self-learning, with activity mapping, all in real time, enabling our customer to visualize what's there with dedicated user interface, investigation, search, and alerts. It's all light speed, it's fast, you can get it as you need, as you search it. Then we can engage with the user, because your finding will realize that there is a problem somewhere or a need by a user. You can engage with the user, communicate in a contextual manner, educate the user, drive some actions, and that's really key. Whether they are automated, they are integrated, they are proactive, they are self-healing. The action part is really important. And the final, to close the loop, you want to validate that actions have actually delivered on the expectation and confirmed by the users. As an example, when you can do that, here is a real customer. You know, dividing by 10 the productivity impact of users. So, which means a huge impact in terms of, like here is 16 days less each month, starting from adopting a proactive cognitive IT operation framework and tooling in this organization. Huge, huge, huge gain in pretty quick win fashion, because what we do is really this predictive assessment. So there are many cases, but we focus on those that are getting high benefits, so there is a lot to gain if we fix them proactively, and they are easy in terms of effort level to implement. There is no point, of course, to say it's high effort, low benefit, but sometimes we, by nature or by feeling, we want to focus on those who maybe they can deliver high benefit, but they will be really complicated to actually achieve in a proactive manner. So those are, then they are piloted through the system. So on the right, we see what IT sees, the different things that have been automated on the endpoint, and this is what the user can see if we wish. This is all configurable, but we can say we'll fix this proactively. You should be back with a stable system, etc. And as an example, this is an example of an application that was when there is a problem. 6 steps involving the user, the IT staff, back to the user. If he's not there, again, takes time. It's 10 to 15 minutes to deal with the case. When you can be predictive completely, it's much easier for everyone because no one is involved. The things get solved. Maybe there is a notification on IT side to log the call, and on the user side to notify about what's been done, but it's completely instant, so you don't lose time and you're back to work completely transparently. And then you have time to cover some proactive things that are not addressable completely in a predictive manner. So you have indicators that says, okay, here you have some issues with Wi-Fi, with Skype, with print, with I don't know, laptop too heavy or not having the right battery lifetime that you can address because you have the resource, because you free them up by automating the rest of the problems. So as a final call, go predictive with your IT to accelerate innovation for a business. And this is about helping the CIO to basically drive everything predictable, not only the IT service, but the cost, the innovation, and measure business outcome, which is key, so that the users, the digital employees there in the enterprise get more flexible workplace, they are more efficient, of course, but they also enjoy a modern environment, a great consumer experience style, and enhanced collaboration. And finally, the business overall and the business as an enterprise, bottom line, top line, is more agile, is more competitive, is more productive. And there is also, I guess, an HR intention behind, because a great IT environment these days is the only way, I mean, it's an essential way, let's say, to really attract young talents as well. So a lot to gain by being predictive. And it's a journey, and we have to start with the low-hanging fruits. We have to select them first, implement it, and then we can get all these benefits very quickly. And I think it's really worth going this direction for any organization, because anyone depends dramatically on IT services. Every employee and every IT organization needs to be behind that with a much better way to monitor IT, so that they can become predictive and automate in an automatic fashion. So that's all for me. I think we have a little bit of time for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent. Excellent presentation, a lot of good information. We are up on the half an hour. I had a couple of questions that were repeated, so I'll do these 2, and then any others we get we'll answer over email. The first one was in terms of the recording and the slides, and also the research and report from Forrester we mentioned. We will share that with everybody who registered for today's event afterwards. The second question that popped up here is we have an APM tooling and would like to better understand the business case for also having an AIOps solution. Can you explain what value it brings?
In 30 seconds, you have to really see APM as measuring the technology stack of one particular application. So it could be SAP in-house, could be something in the cloud, but you will learn about technical metrics to optimize the way For example, you have queries that goes from the front end to the back end database storage and optimize that mechanics, where the solution that cares about that is at this level of digital experience side is really caring about all the experience of the whole system, so it's much more a layer above that. So both are needed and completely complementary.
Excellent. Thank you, Vincent. So I think we're wrapping up at this point because we're a couple minutes over the half hour. Again, we'll be sending everything out. I appreciate everyone joining today. Thank you for the time, and I wish you all a great day. Thanks very much.
Thank you.